Hello, everybody. We are brought to you today by Routine. When you sleep, you lose between a pound and a pound and a half of water, mainly from expelling vapors and sweating. What do you do first thing in the morning? Well, most people wake up, don't drink water, and they go straight for the caffeine. They drink coffee, and by doing so, you actually dehydrate yourself even more. So, Morning Routine is a product that contains half an organic lemon, 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, Himalayan sea salt, all 6 essential electrolytes, and most importantly, no sugar. They come in these little single serve packets, and they are part of every single morning for me. When I wake up, the first thing I do is grab my shaker bottle, pour one of these little single serve packets in, shake it up, and drink it. Genuinely, the days I use Morning Routine versus the days I don't, the days I do, I truthfully feel hydrated. I feel like my brain is just working in a way that it doesn't on days that I don't start my day off with one of these. Routine, trusted ingredients, made convenient. If you go to yourroutine.com and use code ShaneWhite30 at checkout, you'll get 30% off your first order. Again, this is just a daily morning supplement that I take. And a little hack for everyone listening too, I take these first thing in the morning. Sometimes when I feel just dehydrated, or maybe if you decide to have an alcoholic beverage, they're also great, in my opinion, after if you have a drink, having one of these afterwards before you go to bed to rehydrate. Just any part of your day, you can plug one of these in just to rehydrate yourself and get going. And like I said, go to yourroutine.com and use code ShaneWhite30 at checkout for 30% off your first order. Today, we're also brought to you by NeuroRoast. Today's episode is brought to you by NeuroRoast, a company that's dedicated to helping you optimize your brain function and overall well-being. NeuroRoast's flagship product is their premium mushroom coffee, which is made with an organic single origin coffee and their signature blend of 5 different functional mushrooms, including cordyceps, lion's mane, reishi, turkey tail, and chaga. Mushroom coffee is a new and exciting way to supercharge your day. Unlike regular coffee, which can cause jitters and crashes, mushroom coffee provides a more balanced and sustained energy boost, allowing you to stay focused and productive throughout the day. And with NeuroRoast ground and instant coffee options, you can enjoy the benefits of mushroom coffee wherever and whenever you need it. And here's some great news for my listeners today. NeuroRoast is offering an exclusive discount just for you. If you use the code Shane White during checkout at neuroroast.com, that's NEUROAST.com, you'll get 30% off your order. Whether you choose ground or instant coffee, both will work. So again, that's Shane White at checkout for 30% off your purchase. So if you're looking for a natural and delicious way to boost your focus, memory, and overall cognitive function, give NeuroRoast mushroom coffee a try. With their commitment to quality and sustainability, you can trust that you're getting the best possible coffee for your brain and your body. And one last time, use that code Shane White at checkout to get 30%. That is the prompt they gave me. Love the guys at NeuroRoast. Genuinely, folks, from me to you, their coffee is delicious. It does honestly have a different sort of caffeination way of it. The best way to describe it is it doesn't give you the jitters or the crash. I love their stuff. I get the flavored mushroom coffee, ground coffee. To be honest, it's one of my favorite afternoon coffee products. If I'm going to have a cup of coffee for some reason in the afternoon, whether it's a long, busy day, whatever it may be, I love taking their stuff because it really doesn't give you this like jittery, super elevated, caffeinated feeling, but you feel like you have energy and you don't have the crash later. So genuinely do love NeuroRoast. Again, their website is NEUROAST.com and the code is Shane White. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening today. The episode is up after this. All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Shane White Show. I'm pumped today to have Drew Whited on the podcast. Drew, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. We just found out before we hit record that we're both Chicago guys. So next time we'll have to do this in person, but that's pretty cool. I always love bumping into Chicago people and I don't realize it. So power of the internet these days. Yeah.
Exactly.
So for everyone listening who doesn't know who you are right off the bat, would you mind giving everyone just a quick background of you and then obviously your brand Waggin Water?
Sure. Yeah, nice to meet. Well, not nice to meet you guys, but thanks for having me on here and good to talk to you. So yeah, my name is Drew Whited. I'm a 39-year-old entrepreneur from Chicago. I've been an entrepreneur for about 14 years now, and 10 of those have been in the beverage space. The majority of those have been in human beverage space, and then this past 3 years, I'm kind of pioneering humanizing a beverage brand for dogs, basically, because I have a
Hmm.
dog and he's been the inspiration, the guy in the packaging. And so, yeah, we went through quite a little fun journey in our first, 2.5, 3 years in the business. And, but, pretty excited about what the future holds and the dog water game.
That's so cool. And what I know when I first saw this, Drew, it was definitely on LinkedIn. So even before I messaged you, I saw, the power of LinkedIn. It just like things pop up organically. And I remember seeing it, and it's funny. So in my business, long story short, we help brands on Amazon and other e-commerce platforms now. And one of the areas where me and my business partner have been talking is we both just had babies. I had one, and my wife had one in January, and then he had one, and his wife had one in the fall. And so we're like, the baby category is really interesting and just really outside of what we know. It's obviously with our background in CPG, I like food.
Right.
But the other one I've been so bullish on is dog and like just pet products in general.
Right.
And I just feeling like there's not been enough innovation or really anything in that space besides like cleaner food, for example,
Right.
right? Like products that are coming out like Blue Buffalo. Um, but to back everybody up, would love to understand. Yeah, I obviously didn't know the dog in the front. And by the way, thank you for giving me some. I'm holding it up here if you're watching.
For sure.
Um, how did you come up with the idea? Would love to just hear the 0 to 1 of where the concept came from.
For sure. And yeah, I noticed the same thing that you did, like kind of about 2.5 years ago when I was getting into it. I came from the CPG and the beverage space that I've, been innovating the last previous 10 years. And in that space, man, there's so much innovation. It's like, it's crazy. You go to a new Expo West or one of those different trade shows, and there's just so many different new types of beverages. You can't even keep up with it.
Mm-mm.
And not just beverages, just products in general and just innovations. And then yeah, can't coming over to the pet food industry and just the pet industry in general. There is a lot of cool stuff. There is innovation, but it all mostly happens with just within the already established product categories that there are. So like food, treats, chews, toys. It's just different versions of those. So with Wagon Water, I feel like we're truly pioneering a whole new category and delivery system for dogs. And it didn't quite start that way. Just like most businesses, you kind of, most businesses launch their original idea and you get market feedback in a mass way. And then you make a few adjustments and then your next product's usually a lot better version than your very first one.
Sure.
And that's basically in whether you're an accounting firm or it doesn't matter what product or service you do. It's just when you first start and you don't have the market that has that product or service yet, you really don't know what you don't know about it. And so everyone kind of goes through that stage of growth and figuring out what people, and a lot of times if you launch your first product and you do it in a good enough time before that, maybe you do kind of almost get it right. But then usually after that mass market gets your product, they're going to give you enough quality feedback, and if you're humble enough to listen, you can come out with something great as that second version. So that's basically what happened to us. And I started the idea because I have my small dog Mickey. He's a 7 pound Chihuahua, and I've been an entrepreneur for 12, 13 years. So I don't have a wife or kids. I've been kind of married to this game, so it's really just me and him. And because I'm always on the go, I'm always traveling with him. And my original idea to get into this Wagged Water brand was I started basically just a bold water for dogs with a lid on it that you could peel open and
Mm.
just give a dog filtered water on the go. I did that because I'd always be on the go with him traveling, and I'd be, maybe I'd forget his bowl or something to pour it in, and I'd be like
Oh,
buying
so it was
bottled
like
waters.
it was like a bowl that you could bring with you that was already pre-filled. Oh, okay. Yeah,
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 right
yeah.
here. So basically, if you look at a sour cream container or salsa or dips or hummuses, you
Oh,
basically
yeah.
just have this little foil top that you peel open right here, and you can give a dog water on the go.
Cool.
Yeah, it was a pretty novel idea, and it's funny. I'll talk about it in a minute. People, I was either a genius or an idiot for this, kind of because it was single use plastic. Basically, that was the only negative about it. But then if you're on the go, if you're on a dog beach or somewhere, and you saw a wagon, you're like, oh my god, like this is perfect. Like I forgot my water, now I just have to give it to them. So it was a novel. I've been an innovator and been in the beverage space. So when I came up with that idea, to me in my head, I was like, okay, putting water in a bowl and sealing it can't be that hard. I'm thinking
Mm-hmm.
like
Sure.
like So I started just messing around during the pandemic and get this little machine that could seal up different bowls and this. And most people again are putting salsas and dips and other things, but if I'm just putting water in there, I'm like, this can't be that hard. So, anyways, had the concept, had the idea, started taking it to my local dog parks. Obviously, since I was just putting water in a bowl, like every single pet that I'd open it up to would use it. So,
Mm-hmm.
your usage rate for this, it's not like a chew or a treat or something, like it's water. So like everyone's using it. So it felt like I had something there. And I was like, okay, I'm willing to run with this for a minute and see where it goes. At the time, I was in my other coastal, it's called Coastal Wine Spritzers. It's a wine spritz brand that I had worked my way up to in my career as an entrepreneur, and it was a great platform that we were on. My partner and I had been partners now for many years, and that was kind of like our culmination of our career was starting that product. So when I had this little idea, I was like, okay, I'll just do this on the side as a little hustle.
Mm-hmm.
I personally always wanted to do my own thing and have my own company, and my other previous three were always with a partner, and I was kind of like the second one, probably in line with his experience. So after growing for 10 years in my heart and my soul, I just wanted my own thing. And this felt like my calling, this little idea I kind of came up with in my apartment. So once I had the prototype, I literally, because I've sold to many retailers before, I started just looking up a few of the buyers online and saying, okay, let me see what some of them think about it, and see
Cool.
if how
Oh
much
yeah,
legs
that's
it has.
scrappy. So did you have a product at that point, or just the
I
concept?
just basically just had what you see here, but like not like fully labeled, looking as good as it does. But the actual prototype of like a sealed bowl of water, I had it. I had like a lot of entrepreneurs wait to get that first version of their product after they work months. This didn't take that long. I kind of saw right away. Okay, putting water in this and sealing it, like this is my product. So I had a very version A of it, but it was enough to for me to like make a deck and just get some info on it. And that's when the sales guy and me kind of came out. I was like, okay, let me just make this look good, put a deck together, and see if I can get a couple of buyers to take a look at it.
Okay. Yeah.
And when I did that, it wasn't even a month before I had that prototype in my place, right during the pandemic, with no experience in the pet industry. I had no sales, not one customer had it, and this was a brand new category. The target buyer, I was like, I was telling him about it. He's like, "All right, man, like I'm gonna do this." I was like, "Okay," and I'm on the call with him, trying not to like
So
just
wait,
lose it.
Target was your first retailer?
Or my first retailer, he goes, "I'm gonna put this nationwide in 1,200 stores," and then he goes, "I want to put it on end caps." He's like, "And I want three
Whoa.
SKUs," and I was like,
Damn.
"Man." He's like, "Can you, he's like, can you handle that?" And I remember that day, be like, totally sales again. My sales guy, like writing a check you can't take. Yeah, yeah, man,
Yeah.
let's do it. Like, yep, I got you, man, like, for sure. And on in the back of me, I'm like, oh my god, like I got like 2 months to do this. He didn't know, like I really just truly like was in my apartment, like barely making this thing. So I had a tough predicament there. That for right there, that moment of getting this like really like first like big store to bring you in nationwide before no one's had it was like, okay, that was enough for me to like want to start the company and officially get into it. So that's what started it right there, and from there on it's been quite a whirlwind to get to where I'm at now with these new ones here. But I always tell people, you buy the ticket, you got to take the ride, and so that's where I went with them. I was basically learning alongside Target about my own product nationwide. I was learning alongside customers about my own product, which is a very defenseless place to be. Um, so it was a tough. It's like being a freshman and you come into your school and you don't expect to play, and all of a sudden your senior gets injured and like get in the game right now and you haven't taken
Yeah.
any reps. You don't know what you don't know, so you get in the game and you're throwing picks and you're but you don't know what you don't know, so you're learning right there while you're in the heat of the fire about your own self, right? And so it was a blessing and a curse. It was a blessing because it escalated the timing of how quickly I was able to learn about what people thought about it. But the curse was because I was already in the store for that whole year. I could do nothing about making adjustments until the year was over, basically.
Okay.
Um,
I have so many questions because this is the
yeah,
coolest start to a podcast I feel like I've had. So
for sure.
you get your first retail unlock with Target, which for anyone listening, I think most people that listen to this have some sort of, knowledge now of CPG if you've listened to enough episodes here. Um, that's incredible. First of all, Drew, congratulations. I mean, that's something that most brands wait a long time to unlock. I almost think it's so interesting because I really haven't heard very many stories of this happening. Do you think there was actually a big benefit to starting with someone like Target? Because what I see time and time again is you launch in specialty retail or you launch online, you launch in basically places that are maybe a little bit easier to get into to start, that are smaller
Right,
volume. But then as you
right,
get into the Targets and the Walmarts and the Costcos, you start to really see your price point fall to the floor, right? You create a new
right,
floor. For you
right.
starting at Target, I mean, you kind of got to, I don't know if you how much work went into this, but my background's in finance. So the first thing that comes to mind is you got to set hopefully a pretty solid floor to have a healthy margin for you and a healthy margin for Target. And then everyone else that comes in that wants Waggin Water after this, like hopefully like the next, the Walmarts, the Costco's won't be that much more of a floor lowering mechanism from a retailer perspective. Did you
Mhm.
see that kind of happen? Because again, usually Target will
Well,
bring your price point down.
normally you would see that in most categories and most products. The unique thing about me is I was starting a whole entire new category. So there was no one looking for my product at the time. There was no one even knew packaged water for dogs existed. So I had not one
Yeah.
person looking for my actual product. So because of that, but so the pricing and some of those things and not having any competitors were bright sides because I could, have healthy margins and not worry about some of the pricing and things with Target. But the downside and the toughest part, well, there's a couple of toughest parts. One of them was I didn't have a market for it. So
Mm-hmm.
there was no education behind it. So that first year of a new thing of anything, whether it's anything, it's such a educational and kind of discovery stage for consumers to figure out what the hell it even is that they're trying to figure out how to use it and where to use it, and
Right.
so, but to answer your question really entirely is that like it's anytime you start a product or a brand, and especially something brand new, if I'm just another dog food, there's a little bit less risk because I've kind of can study the market and figure out some of the things I would need to know. But if you're starting something brand new that you really ideally want to iron out your kinks, quote unquote, in your local retailers, meaning whether it's the taste, the price, the package, any sort of thing that could be wrong with that initial formula, something that might not be good about your packaging or how it's mentioned, a few points that you forgot to mention, any of those small things, you always work those out in version A, 1A of your product. And those only happen from kind of putting it in retailers. Now, doing that on a stage like Target, you only magnify your mistakes really. So it's really, you want to work those out pre-hand because what I dealt with was, again, I said it earlier, I was either a genius or an idiot. The genius part was okay. If I put it in, I had it in Camping World nationwide. Like right away, I started getting it in other places just because I was like, all right, man, if I'm in this, let's do it. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, okay, I got to find places where this would work at, right? Find product market fit. So I immediately went to Camping World because this is like an on the go thing. And I have here in Chicago, actually, the Montrose Dog Beach. I have a vending machine there that has these things in there, and they
I was
sell
gonna
really,
ask. That's genius. Yeah.
yeah, they sell really, really well there. But here's the problem. Like if you go on TikTok and go to Google and look up Waggin Water, when the market got a hold of it, I thought I was going to get canceled from Target. I swear, like being 6 months into it, we had a couple of things that went viral. Not self-created, not our own TikToks. These are TikToks people are making about the single-use plastic aspect of it. And they're blowing
Oh.
up, getting millions of hits. And I'm like thinking, oh my
Oh, like
God, my
people
tar
like anti because you got it. Which is
right,
funny
right.
because how many people are still drinking plastic water bottles? I mean, come on.
Well, yeah, exactly. And what we did as a brand is we tried to do everything in the world to offset. Once we quickly, I knew that was the biggest thing coming into it, and that made me
Hmm.
nervous when I was starting it. I actually tried to do a biodegradable little bowl, um, but once he brought it in, I had to make quick decisions and jump into it. And because it was a single-use plastic, the pet industry is going very forward on sustainability, and me introducing that was a very backward step in the eyes of many. And
Okay.
I
Got it.
equally support it. That's kind of why I ended up in these.
Yeah.
So there was, a blessing to being in there because you quickly start, and again, you establish yourself as the category leader is the biggest thing. Like once you put me in the Target nationwide, like I kind of become the dog water company instantly right away, and then it's
Yeah.
on me and any true entrepreneur to kind of, navigate those waves that you're going to experience by taking that because you have to know that like if you haven't got any feedback and you're going to take that deal, everything's going to be magnified, and you got to be ready to like work with those currents because they're, if you're not, it can destroy your company, to be a little too early to be in there.
That makes a ton of sense. I mean, that's tough as an entrepreneur and you're getting distribution like Target right away. And then to hit something like a snag, I don't want to call it a snag, but kind of, right? It's like a lot
Oh,
of
for sure.
pushback.
Right.
And like not the positive kind. Do you feel like, and this is, I'm just curious because you've been through it. Do you feel like some of that noise, I'm sure, because I mean, again, like we talked about before we hit record, when I was at our X bar, I'm sure there would have been plenty of little things that came up, but it was before that. I ever actually remember TikTok becoming even a
Right.
platform when I was in that office. And I
Right.
remember being like, I think it's gonna be a big idea. And a lot of people thought I was like, no way, this TikTok thing is gonna take off. So it's funny
Right.
now, fast forward a few years, to hear that story from you. I think that a lot of brands face that. Do you think though there's a lot of noise? Like, do you think from you being the brand, do you think it's always important to respond and to pivot? Because I guess maybe there's some truth to
Yeah,
it, which you
I
felt, right?
would say, yeah, I will say one thing that I truly believe in is like it's just hard to fight the current. You know what I mean? Like it's easier to go with it in anything in life. And so when there's mass amounts of people saying something, like it's probably true, like in a sense. Now, we get, and it's different when you get real big and you're these RX bars of the world. That then you're just like a LeBron James, meaning then you're going to have haters and lovers no matter what because you're that big. I mean, you're controversial. You're that big. You're the biggest out there. People aren't going to all love you. That's never happened. And so, regardless, I keep that in mind no matter who you are. Because to me, LeBron couldn't be a more perfect example. Now, obviously, I'm a Jordan. I have a Jordan tattoo. I'm more of a Jordan guy. But
I love it. Love it.
um,
Chicago, baby.
yeah, yeah. But just in general, like, for a brand and an owner, you want to have an ear to to these things out there because you want to have a pulse on your company and what people think. And if it outweighs the positive, you got to look, honestly in the mirror and be like, okay, maybe this isn't the thing. And especially for me, like, that first year, everyone was my test market. Now they didn't know they were my test market, but like they didn't, they truly were my test market. So I was even more nimble in that first stage because I knew that like no one had this yet, and I had to be listening and have my ear to what people thought because in my previous brands, that's what brought that second good version out of the brand was that listening, being on like for me, you know. I'm just a hustler and I'm very like keen to what's, to listening to everything. So I go to every trade show I can to. I go and talk to these retailers. I literally scroll through the TikToks like, now, is it always good? No, but when you're very early and you have to learn what your next move is, you have that.
Hmm.
That's the best you can do is pay attention to those things right then. And if you do it well enough, I tell people like, I didn't build my product. My customers built my product. I was just a vehicle to get it there. And because
Ah,
I listened humbly enough to the market and had my ear to it and was an artist enough to take that and to turn it into what it should have been, and that's often a big challenge, but definitely early on, it's critical, in my opinion, to like really listen to what customers are saying. If you're looking for that, now if you're
yeah.
established, you know
Well,
what you got.
it's humility, right? I mean, I
Right,
think as an entrepreneur, you probably, I would think the vast majority of entrepreneurs, again, just generalizing here, when they think they have a good idea, it's kind of like a bulldozer. Like, this is my idea, and like, truth be damn, I'm going to get this to market and hope it scales, right? But that's pretty cool to hear. Like, you had the humility to look at what people were saying and being like, okay, I hear you. Like, let's make a
right.
pivot and let's make it better. Um, I'd love to back up too, Drew, because I think the product is so cool, and I'm holding it here if you're watching. What you said that your dog was kind of the impetus for the idea, but what made you, for example, like come up with the different types of products? Like, what was the need, I guess, or the problem you were really
Sure.
trying to solve?
Well, to go into the point right there, what we were just tailing off of from right there. So once I got this deal with Target, I was going to be in those stores for a whole year, and for me, I was just trying to find that quote unquote product market fit. Like, where is this thing supposed to be at? Like, where can I? So I put it in Camping World, Amazon, Chewy, all kinds of different places, just trying to find that fit. And in my eye, and then I'm selling it for like 79 cents. And so to make it and ship it, like there was zero, there were really, at the end of the day, I started to figure out like there's not a lot of room on this at all, like to make money. I
Mm-hmm.
had to sell a lot of these for the project and my investors and myself to like make money. And at that
Yeah.
point I started to look at it like, well, with all these negatives going on out here, I'm like, I don't see the path really to this. But I couldn't make that completely vocal because I'm already in the ship like driving. I can't be like, hey y'all, man, I'm gonna bail. Like I had to be the leader and be like, okay, listen, like, so anyways, but being in the dog water game, quote unquote, I kind of was like, I always look for like that next like sign of like what's to come from this, kind of where can I take this. And basically I was doing it. Once I figured out in my heart that this wasn't the path, I was like, okay, I got to find. And I had some friends here in Chicago actually that were doing a CBD water for humans, and it was
Cool.
flavorless. They were selling it at Mariano's in some stores. And I was like, you know what, the CBD category is pretty big for pets. Like, let me see if I can introduce this water version. So I basically got some of that off them, and actually just my first version, I was putting it in these bowls that I had. But the day I released that, it immediately opened it was like my aha moment for sure. I was lucky that it was flavorless because dogs, if they detect anything in their water, they don't want to drink it. So like the CBD water being flavorless, I was able to deliver dogs benefits through water without them even knowing it. And that to me was like, okay, I got something here. Because basically, right now, the way, and I'm just speaking that category specifically, like CBD, the only way you can give your dog CBD currently before I came along was through a treat, a chew, or a tincture. When dogs are
Yep.
stressed out, though, they naturally don't eat as much as they would drink water. And so for me, it became a natural delivery system to delivering these stressful dogs, pain relief through without them knowing it. And I was like,
Got it.
man, I was like, damn, this is, and then my market feedback was now they didn't, it immediately shifted to like, because now I'm providing value. It wasn't just a convenience item. Now I have an actual, like, something in there that's helping it. So the everything took a backseat, the sustainability. It wasn't just quote unquote water in a bowl. Now I'm like really delivering an actual need out of something, so it wasn't looked at so bad in that light. So I was like, man, this is definitely it. And that's when I kind of was like, okay, I need to now kind of go down this path more. So how do I make these more flavorless and functional waters? And to me, the CBD, I was like, this is only one category. Like, this is
Hmm.
calming for pets. What if I can do dental and hip and joint and skin and coat and vitamin, and basically go down the categories of health that they already get through treats and chews, but just give them this flavorless water version of it. Um, so once I had that moment of introducing that and seeing the bright side immediately for my market, I'm like, man, I got to go all in on this pivot, and really just
Yeah.
cut the cord. I was like, this is a sinking ship. So um, yeah, I decided to go all in, and took 11 months off. I pulled my product from every shelf in America. Basically, I pulled it from Target, pulled it from Camping World, pulled it from everywhere. And
And this is the bowl that you just showed us.
yeah, I pulled this from
Okay.
everywhere. I just completely took it off because once I had this, I was like, you know what? Now that I find this functional pathway, let me just see if I can create a couple SKUs and make a whole new suite out of it now of products, and then kind of pivot to all of these instead of this. And once I decided to do that, I'm like, well, if I'm going to make these again, I'm not going to use plastic again because that's what killed me. So now that I have a chance to redo it, like, let me just think about doing maybe in a Tetra Pak or something. Essentially, what I was doing, I went from one product, which this was for convenience on the go for dogs, and it was just regular water. Now I'm messing with like supplements infused into waters. So it's a completely different consumer. Now I'm like, your hip and joint needs, your calming needs, your dental needs. It's not a convenient customer. So I was essentially starting a brand new company under the same umbrella, kind of.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, no, it's really, really smart. I mean, Drew, what I think is cool is like, and this is gonna be funny. This is just an anecdotal experience. I told you before we started recording, I have a chocolate lab. He's super high strung. When I first saw this on LinkedIn, that was immediately like, because we just cannot find something that the poor guy, whenever someone comes over, even if he knows them, he's just so high strung the whole time we have guests over that it's almost like stressful for us. So we've been looking for something. He also unfortunately has this crazy like vitamin B issue, which means he can't have a lot of treats or anything with fat in it. So he's on like
Right.
a weird diet. So something with water is perfect because he
Right.
just can't have a lot. Like even the CBD treats out there we've tried, like I know the Martha Stewart ones worked for a little bit, but then he can't have that high of fat in the treats. So this is
Right.
really cool for us because he just can't have a lot of the normal things that I think a lot of dogs would want.
Well,
Yeah.
and the number one thing that goes in a dog's mouth per day is water. So, it's they more than they eat chews, treats, and food combined. Water is the number one thing every day. So if I can deliver your needs to that pathway, I have more opportunities to be in your system from a suite of products than a lot of other companies that have been around forever for the food and treat companies. So, and the good thing that I stumbled upon, and what I mentioned a few times, it's my superpower as a what I found about the product is like this flavorless thing. I lucked out because dogs drink water out of creeks, they drink out of lakes, they'll drink out of, if their bowl's been on the ground for 3 days with dust in it, they'll drink out of it. Like they'll
Right.
drink tap water of any kind. They don't be like, hey man, this tap water isn't good. So that's a really lucky point because what I did is when I was creating this product, anyone else there's been a lot of people in this pet industry that have tried to, like Nestle, Purina, a lot of big name companies that have tried to create like vitamin waters for dogs, and
Oh,
all of
have they?
them
That was
have,
one of my
yeah,
questions. I haven't done my research, but I didn't know if that was a
there's a
thing.
couple out there right now, and almost all of them that have launched as a quote unquote vitamin water for dogs have all either shut their doors or pivoted to being a food topper, because
Mm,
you can't force dogs to drink something instinctually that they'll never in their mind have a choice to want to do.
right.
As a human, we have that distinction, that choice, and we have that development in our brain to be able to do that. Dogs don't. They just, when they're, now they'll, if you put anything on their food, they'll eat it over there. But when they're done with that bowl and they're ready to have their drink, they want water, just as us as cavemen back in our days, right? Water is,
Yeah.
it's most of our body. So, and knowing that they will drink water out of a bowl that has a couple deaths of specks in it, like we won't do that. So that was important because when I was building this, I was like, well, if I can just piggyback off that notion here and try to trick them into remaining flavorless, and I have some wiggle room because again, they drink from like different sources that isn't really. So I was like, let me just try to infuse these waters with the supplements, the raw supplement. A lot of companies that failed before, they try to put flavor agents in there to make it taste like chicken or taste like beef or taste like something.
Mm,
Where again, like they don't want that in that scenario. They just want the water. You can line up a million bowls on the ground right now of different liquids, but when the dog's done, they don't want those. They just want the water. It's just how we are as human nature, I guess, of species. So my subtle infusion of, like, for example, the one you have, that calming one, it has melatonin in there and it has L-theanine and L-tryptophan. Those are three very, very common ingredients that are found in dog treats and chews for calming. I
Ah.
was able to buy those, and when I make my product, I go and test. I buy them and I put them in a liter of water. And now, if I taste it, if you open that right now and taste it, you can kind of, you would be like, Drew, I can kind of taste something. It just
Hmm.
tastes like someone else's tap water, kind of like
Oh,
it tastes
okay.
like a little different, you know. But to the dog, because like I said, they drink flavorless for the most part of anything. I was able to sneak this in there, and so my goal is like to find these formulas where, you know, I use the similar proven FDA ingredients for dogs, but I give you a water version of it. You know, it's just an alternative delivery system. You know, basically.
And how did you, were you just testing these with your own dog early on? Were you like trying
Basically, yeah.
stuff and being like,
Actually,
hey
and
man,
that's
will you drink
funny.
this?
Well, that's funny. You asked earlier, like, what? How is he involved with being the inspiration? So his name's Mickey, and my mom calls him Picky Mickey because he's literally like the pickiest dog in the world. Like I have bags of treats and chews in my you know behind me here. I bought him everything in the world to, and he did. I'll cook him bacon, chicken, steak. Some days he just won't eat. Some days he'll go the whole day without eating, but he drinks his water every day. So if I'm able to sneak benefits in his water bowl without him knowing, at least he's getting some nourishment of some sorts, whether it's the collagen from the hip and joint, or you know, any sort of aspect that I can. I used to give him some, like, put a little coconut water in his bowl just to have, so he
Mm.
had some extra hydration in there. So basically, you know, he is a little bit the inspiration behind the brand of just making it, you know, because he's super picky. So that's kind of, I always tell people, like, our two real big angles that we have on the industry with this product is A, for picky eaters. Like I said, he won't, if I get hip and joint treats, calming treats, it doesn't matter. He won't eat it, but you know, he'll drink it. If I can deliver it through that bowl over there, it's good for picky eaters, you know. Um,
That's really cool. I mean, it's funny because it's so true. So many dogs are picky with what they'll eat. My dog is the opposite. Like I think I could pretty much give him anything and he'll eat it,
right. That's how most dogs
but
are.
he can't have a lot. So for me, the Wagon Water is such a cool idea because it allows him to get a lot of things. I'm really excited to have him try. I'm going to give him some of the calming today and to see how he does with it.
Awesome.
Do you think, and I want to ask this question because you seem like, I would call you a serial entrepreneur. You just seem like the type of guy that you just are always tinkering, thinking of new ideas, launching new things. It's really cool if you think about anyone that's listening to this that's always wanted to start something, right? Like you just saw a problem in your own house that wasn't rocket science. It was just something that you were
Mhm.
like, hey, my dog doesn't love this. There's got to be a better way. Do you think there's something to that, just in general, just for people listening today, of just looking around and being more aware of little issues in your life that maybe there's a product or a service that could solve that?
I do, and actually, like, one of my favorite things that's very often talked about by serial entrepreneurs is that, you know, it's really only 1% idea, 99% execution. Like, I can't tell me how many ideas come across the board from not only just from your circle of friends and people and just the internet and online. Like, ideas are one thing, and then the action and staying in the game long enough to create something out of that is really the most challenging part. But yeah, there is, I mean, there is, you know, that is to me like the fun and easy, and not easy because of course you want a good idea, a real good idea. Like, it's not, I will not call it super easy, but it can be, you know. And the longer, just like now that I've been an entrepreneur for four to this is, to me, I consider it a beverage brand, but it's my fourth beverage brand, you know. And so anything that you do that long, you become better at. I'm just becoming a better entrepreneur. Just like if I were a doctor or a vet for 10 to 15 years, I would be a lot better at that job. The decisions, the process, you start to see the trends of the things that you go through, and you just become better
Mm-hmm.
at it, you know. And luckily, if you stick around and do it long enough, and you can stay sane long enough, because you have to sacrifice a lot. I mean, you really do. It takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot of you. Not everyone is in position with family and kids and the way that they have designed their lives to truly jump all in and go all after something. It does take a lot of time, attention, and just effort and grit. And but you know, it could be a, you know, some of the simple things that start off are can be that easy. Just noticing what's around you and seeing, hey man, if you're experiencing a problem, chances are other people are too. You know.
Yeah. No, it
Um,
makes sense. Do you think, and I would love to kind of to bounce right out of that to this next question because it leads into this. For you, you've done beverage before. I'm super bullish on beverage, just to kind of make you aware. I think people listening to this will know this. I think one area, and I've talked about it probably too much on here, is I think the non-alcoholic space is a really interesting place right now. There's just a lot of
yeah.
people trying to figure it out. All the data that's out there is saying that more and more people are trying to cut out drinking, especially the generation that's a little bit younger than you and me.
Hmm.
But I always say beverage, from the brands I know, the ones I work with, and just friends that have been in the industry, it seems like one of the harder CPG products because of the cost to get into it, the weight
Hmm.
and cost it takes to get product to the consumer. For
Yeah.
you, you have a little bit of experience in this. What was that like for you getting it off the ground? And when I think of that, how did you fund this? Was it all bootstrap? Did you raise some capital? Like, would love for people listening today, because every beverage brand I've talked to has done it a little bit different, and they're all really unique ways they brought it to market. It's a lot different than like a protein bar, right? Where you can make it in your kitchen and
Right.
try to sell it to people.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just being in beverage, that's just, if you look at things also a lot of time in a macro sense, not try to overthink them. Like that is the down, it's heavy, and the price point isn't usually super high. So with that, the biggest thing is the weight in the project. You can control your margins, you can control your product kind of there, but the weight of it in the beverage is pretty. So you have to make decisions based around that a lot. Um, that leads the way. Like I'd love to be selling direct to consumer and crushing it on Amazon and Chewy and all these places that ship, but like for me, I'm on Amazon right now, and we don't make anything on there. We're on there to be on there to
Mm-hmm.
meet the consumer and to be on there, but we have to win at retail. For me, my relationship with Target, luckily, I'm considered a collect vendor, so they pick it up from me. Now, there's such a big company with so many big trucks that picking up my Waggin Water isn't really a huge spec on there. They're kind of doing that already, so that makes it a good relationship for me because I get to offset my cost of that shipping there with them, and so you do have to pick and choose a little bit being in the beverage industry with that being the case. Now, luckily for me, I'm not in a category with 10 other people next to me where we're all driving each other down, and really, I'm dealing with a little bit of white space that I can operate within and kind of set, like you said, at the very beginning of the call, set the standard, the price point, and not have to look over my shoulder about like all these other people stealing market share from me right away, and doing that. So, but I actually feel like, me bringing my beverage experience to the pet industry was a very naive, super skill set kind of thing that helped out because no one was really looking at products over there and the light that I was looking at products over here. And the humanization of pets is a really strong thing that's going on. So for me to have, even know how to create a beverage, all these little ins and outs of the distribution things, like that was all a big advantage coming over here that no one really over here would have unless they also had that, and everyone over here had tons of years of selling pet food and making pet foods, but I had, years. So that really helped a lot. And yeah, right. To answer your question about the funding part of it, I came from pretty much nothing. Like I had a single mom, no dad. She had 4 kids. We moved around a lot, food stamps, like I didn't really have much. I don't have a network of people. I came at, growing up, I couldn't really even call my mom after I was 18 and ask her for $10. I was kind of just figuring it out like my whole life. And so with that, after being an entrepreneur for 10, 12 years and really being a true on the ground, everyday entrepreneur, you start to develop a network of trust and people around you that start to believe in at least that you're going to see it through and somehow, make it out the other end. And so immediately when I got that Target deal so quickly, I was not really prepared to take that on, like I said. And so I quickly brought in some money from friends and family to at least get me off the ground and have enough to like start it. But I've always been a very frugal entrepreneur. I don't like, you see these things on the internet and these stories, and it makes you believe that like that's the how easy and the way to go, and you just got to beat at your own pace, kind of. And like so for me, I never want to bring in too much money. Like I just would have spent more money on my initial mistakes had I brought in
Mm.
more. That's kind of the way I sometimes look at things. And so yeah, I brought in a little bit of money, probably $200,000 to be honest with you, because I had to buy a production machine, I had to get materials, I had to get myself set up to like handle this first initial opportunity, and
Oh,
but
are
I didn't
you
really.
producing it yourself?
Well, that's the other crazy thing that this whole when it happened, basically, the big decision I had to make was the production, like a co-packer. So what I did is I knocked on every co-packer's door in America, pretty much, that made anything in this size bowl that put stuff in it. But no one was putting water in this bowl. They were putting salsas and dips and hummuses and other things. So no one. So basically, long story short, the water is such a thin, it's such a thin thing that going around the machines, it would spill. So they would have to slow down their
Ah.
machines so much to run my product that it was going to cost me a lot to do. And at that point, like I said, I'm like, dude, this is putting, like, excuse me, water in a bowl. Like, like I got to be able to do this inside somehow at a mass scale. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't, because often when you go to co-packer, man, you have to deal with like your ingredients and your blends and all these things that you don't know how to measure and do. And I'm like, dude, if I'm just putting water in a bowl, all I need to do is find a machine to do it. I should just do it. So yeah, I basically made that decision to get this machine and invested in that. So I was producing, yeah, I brought them in house and was producing them, and that machine cost me some money. And just to do that, and have my own warehouse and do all that cost me, enough money to have to get something in the door, basically.
Well, good for you, Drew. I mean, that's a cool story. I don't know how often have you shared that before? I mean, just your upbringing online. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty open about it. At one point, I'd love doing what I'm doing here, and even as my small circle of friends now, like if I can connect with someone else out there that kind of had something similar to me in an upbringing way, that just to show them they can do it, like as humans, we're built to figure it out. I just read something about yesterday those kids that were 40 days in the Amazon, and they were, and it's not completely relatable, but we really have tendencies in us as humans to figure it out. Like that's how we're born, and it's often fun to just learn and figure it out. Like that's really the joy. Like the journey part of it is just, you know, I wake up every day because I got to go figure it out. But for myself and for my own company, and I have something that's working my mind and my soul, and especially if it's something I love and I'm passionate about. I mean, it just it's fun. Like I wake up every day at 5:30 with no alarm, and I'm pretty excited about my life and what I have to do in front of me. So it's a blessing. Yeah,
Good for you, man. No, that's really, really cool. I just wanted to say that.
cool,
I
man.
think
Appreciate it.
there's not a lot of people that probably either share that or have been through that and figured it out. So that's just really cool. I'm pumped for you. Did you grow up in Chicago?
No, I grew up in Indiana, in Bloomington, Indiana. I was born in Ohio, grew up in Indiana, moved around Indiana a little bit, and then went to college. I actually dropped out of college too with like a few credits left.
Where'd
And
you
then
go to school?
I played basketball for 2 years at a school called Manchester in Indiana. Once I knew that that wasn't my long term future, I decided to transfer to Eastern Illinois and try to figure something out there. I was in sports management, and I remember, and this is funny because even as a kid, I kind of knew I wanted to quote unquote do my own thing. When I was going through college, I remember being there and just every once in a while talking to the advisor, and just in my head, I was like, nothing here is what I want to do. And like, they didn't have anything I want to do. I remember having general studies all the way down to my last few credits and talking to them like, man, I still don't know what I want to do here. Like, none of this stuff is for me. And some people, it felt like I was failing a little bit by not knowing that. And then it made complete sense once I started to find my way a few years into my professional life. I was like, okay, now I know why I wasn't really caring to go through this. It was more of a
Yeah.
process that my friends were going through that I thought I had to do, not really what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But these days they got way more entrepreneurship courses that they offer in colleges. So I'm not saying that college is a bad thing or anything. They just didn't at that time really have anything like that for me.
I've talked about it on here before. I went to, so really quick, funny story, this is just so crazy that we were just meeting. I grew up, I say grew up, I moved there in eighth grade, but I lived there through high school and then college. I went to Purdue, but I grew up in Greenwood. So
Okay, cool.
not
Yeah.
far from Bloomington, man. That's so funny.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I actually lived in Indianapolis for a while too, for many years. So I was right next to you there.
oh,
So,
that's so funny. What years were you in Indy?
well, I'm 39, so I was there when I was in middle school.
Okay.
I was going to be going to Ben Davis. I went to Fulton
Yeah.
Junior High up there, and
Okay. I mean, I lived in
yeah,
Carmel and Keystone, that whole area for a while after college. So too funny, man. We've
yeah,
crisscrossed
yeah.
paths more than once.
Yep.
But no, that's wild, man. Wild background. I know on here I've even talked about it where even, I'm not talking bad about Purdue. Like I had an unbelievable time. It was great to go there. Everyone knows that listens, but it definitely teaches you and kind of grooms you to go get a job.
For
And
sure.
like I even took entrepreneurship classes, so I got like a little taste of it, and I almost got
Mhm.
like the minor in entrepreneurship, the program they have. I just didn't have enough take enough classes, but it does kind of like all the classes and then the career fairs and everything. It really does groom you to go get a corporate job. It doesn't. There's not a whole lot at the
Well,
university
and
level that.
just yeah, especially now these days, it's become way easier to be an entrepreneur the last 15 years, like 10,
Hmm.
15 years. Before then, it was very much not the biggest, nice, easy option, out there. So, in general, just society and people, like what you see out there is really the most part of just this college experience of people going that route. So to me, not having much of a leader that was telling me what to do, I was always
Yeah.
just figuring it out on my own, and I was just like watching my friends. I was kind of a late bloomer because I'd always just learn through them. Like, okay, they're all doing this, let's do that. And so yeah, I ended up, but yeah, it's
No, I agree. I even think post COVID, it's gotten way different, right? Like I know the business me and my business partner started was during COVID. And the only way we were able to do that was having two computers, right? And we were all at home. And
right,
if we were back in the office, it was hard to do that because you're at the office all day and you get home and you're drained. You're trying to crank from, 7 to midnight and then the weekends. Nowadays,
right,
people can kind of get stuff off the ground while you're doing other things and you can kind of It's
And
totally
you have,
changed.
yeah, and you have all the tools at your fingertips now to truly create like something quickly. I mean, you can have a website, a domain, an LLC. You can have your marketing, your social, all these things. You have the tools at your fingertips to start something. It's good and a bad thing. It's good because the entry level to doing it is way. The bar is way lower to start it. But then you're going to have an influx of the supply, and like there's going to be way more competition possibly in
Hmm.
the years to come because of how easy it is. But I do like that it is much easier because it gives people the freedom to now have the option of doing their own thing, working, creating their own path, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah. It was funny that you say that. Yesterday, I had a colleague friend who's a venture capitalist come on here because I've been wanting to get,
mhm,
I have a lot of brand owners, but I also love to get the other side of the folks who are actually deploying the capital just to kind of understand and make
right,
connections for folks, to be honest. And it was really interesting to hear. I said, and maybe this is just my own anecdotal experience, but back when I was at RX, it seemed like that year, it felt like every month there was some major acquisition, right? It was just like boom, 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 boom. And then like in 2019, 2020, it really slowed down. Then COVID hit. And I just don't feel like you see a lot of CPG brands getting acquired anymore. And he
right,
made a good point of some of it's the economy and just what's going on right now. But the other part of it, he said, is you just see so many more CPG brands that are popping up.
yeah,
There's 10x what there was 5 years
right,
ago. So the percentage of brands that
yes,
are like the same amount are getting acquired, but now there's this huge mountain
right,
and just the tippy
yeah.
top are getting
It's
acquired. It's
hard to
kind of
get
crazy.
it's hard to take a bet that you feel good is going to win because there's too
Yeah.
many things to take a bet on and so
Yeah.
many
Yeah. Yeah.
evolving factors. It's like it's just an influx. Yeah,
And
that's
you can get
I
5% on your savings account. So it's like, why am I
yeah,
risking money on the startup when I can just go put, it is tough. Do
right.
you think where you're at, I know you're early on in this, Drew, but
Mhm.
do you, do you foresee this being something you'd love to exit someday, or do you want to build this into a big behemoth of a brand or somewhere in the middle?
Probably somewhere in the middle. I do want to put my touch on it, and this is my baby. This is what I dreamed my whole life of doing, and I have that opportunity right now. And I know I have the platform I've always wanted for, and that opportunity. And I'm going to do my best and to really truly put my touch on something and have my name behind a cool company and product that I think brings value to the industry. And that's what drives me more than any sort. Like I'm not driven by money. Like money is a byproduct that okay. Like but I live very like I to me, this is just what I love to do. And so
Hmm.
this is my baby and this is truly my opportunity. I feel like to put a name out there for myself and show myself what I'm capable of the most, not anyone else, just myself. Like I've been waiting to do this forever. And I feel like I got the keys to do it now. And so, but at some point, yeah, because, at one point I think everything has a lifespan for, you know, for every little thing, And so for me, this is going to have a certain point where I'll want to hang it up. But hopefully by that point, I would have done a lot and feel good about what I've created and look behind me and feel good going to the next step. Because at one point, like I mean, I will at one point. That is the goal is to somehow hand this off at some point to someone else that can then take it to the next level, and be on my way and do something else. But still quite a lot of work to do. But it's very. I've had enough brands and been around this long enough to know that we do have something special here. Going to your point a minute ago, about all these CPG beverage brands. Like I literally, it makes me like it makes me like my head spin to like I get sick even thinking about if I was in that space with just another beverage right now. Like I'm glad I have this little, and it's really for me what drives me the most is trying to find some sort of white space where I can kind of, no matter if it is going to be harder because I have to like really bang down the door because there is no path for it. It's really what like I'd rather have that opportunity than be in a sea of a bunch of others trying to fight for that bite. you know
Yeah, no, I get it. And it was funny at the beginning of the podcast. One of the thoughts that came in my head was trying to understand for you. I've never worked in a category where you're like creating the category per se,
Right.
but it sounds like now, number one, that it's been exciting. Number two, for you, it's actually worked really well in your favor. I know we're getting low on time. I have a couple more
Sure.
questions, but I'd love to ask you
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
one. Just like, what was it? What has it been like since you launched this? You made a really, really good point at the very beginning. You said something along the lines of there wasn't really a demand for this necessarily. Like people don't know
Mhm.
they needed it. So what was that like? Like how did you get people to even realize, like, to be honest, like me, I didn't know this is something I would want. Now it's something I can't imagine I wouldn't probably want if it works for my dog.
Well, that's a good question, and really, this is my third year doing it. So, I've sat here and listened for years to try to get to this point. So again, my customer created this, but what I'm doing is I'm borrowing the human behavior, right? Like, so what you're doing, like you're buying it for your dog, but you're buying it based on how you buy. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's it's the same. Like we buy on our own trends, whether it's subconscious or consciously. So humans are already buying $5 beverages every single day to get their function, whether that's from a coffee, from the booze, from the tea, from the orange juice, from the smoothie. Every single day, we're buying $4 to $5 beverages to get our function. Now you can just do that for your dog. So,
Mm,
and then I made it look just like all the stuff that we're carrying and buying already. So it looks just like a Vita Coco coconut water functional type of beverage for us.
yeah.
So it's not a big ask when you walk down the aisle and you're already, especially, I'm selling at Target right now, and on my radar are other kind of grocery places because, you're in that environment in a Target, you're already passing other beverages, you're buying that. So when you come across a Waggin Water $5 function, for your dog, it's not a huge crossover ask, especially again, since the pet industry is essentially all humanized items. Any category you want to go to, the offerings within that category are usually humanized to where when it's offered to you as the consumer to buy it for your dog, it's given to you in a way such as you're used to buying that kind of for yourself. There's like turkey and gravy meals, there's dog shoes and clothes, like everything. We want to treat them like we treat ourselves.
Yeah.
So my original product had no demand, but now that I have these new ones that I pivoted to, that's a big reason I made the pivot, is because I went into the biggest, hugest categories right now within pets. So dental health for dogs, hip and joint health for dogs, calming health for dogs. These are multi huge categories, and I'm just giving you a water version of them now. So now I'm actually meeting the demand with my new ones versus trying to create the demand. I'm just giving you a different way. So I tell people this all the time too. It's like I truly am adding a value because right now, currently, like if your dog has hip and joint pain and he's an older dog, like you're currently supporting him through possibly a pill from your vet, and then you have some food that's, then you have some treats that are probably some collagen bones and chews. It's not like you have to stop giving him those. It's just now
Yeah.
they get support from their water bowl as well. Whereas before Wagging Water came along, your bowl of water was just giving them water, which that's
Right.
fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But with us, we're just delivering more benefits from that bowl, and so um, yeah, finding that, pivoting from, sticking around long enough is kind of how we you know, found the angle here. Was just, it
Yeah.
wasn't clear at first, but yeah.
No, it makes sense. I love that. That's super cool, Drew. Super cool. As we wind down here, one question I love to ask every founder is essentially the tools you use. So when you think about whether it's Wagon Water goals, just Drew's yearly goals, and then all the way down to like, what do you need to get done today? So how do you prioritize the shit that's important to do today? Do you use like pen and paper? Are you a planner kind of guy? Do you use apps? What does Drew use to like hit goals and map out his daily stuff?
It's a combination of tools that over the years that you sprinkle in more and more of what works and what doesn't, kind of. So I am a big goals person. Like I kind of like have that big once a month, like paint the picture for the month type of big vision. And then day to day, I'm really big on to-do list. And if I write it down in my life, if I don't, the chances are if I write it down, I'm going to do it at some point. And whether it goes on the next day's to-do list or not, if you keep writing it down, eventually it'll get done. It's
Yeah.
funny. I actually keep on me every day. I have a notebook, and every single day I keep notes on me. It's actually something I learned from my mentor and partner before. But I have, over the years, I keep every one of these notebooks. It's almost like you can look backwards on them now and see how you created all these companies and things, and it's pretty
Hell
cool
yeah.
to see that. But I have virtual assistants that have been critical to what I've done over the years. Some of them have been in Argentina and the Philippines, and I'm very close with them and their families. One of them they flew over here and met. So I'm
Wow.
equipped with things over the years that I put in place to keep me organized and keep me on track. And then, with your company, depending on the size and how fast it's growing, at one point, if you're wearing every hat, you're going to have to alleviate some of that. And that way you can be the expert at what you're the expert at and not try to do everything that's just wasting your time. And the company's probably time to move forward. But yeah, pretty much very organized and not too organized, though. I don't stick by a book of things, but I like to feel like I got everything under control and I have small systems that kind of help me do that.
Love that, Drew. Off air, I would love to learn more about the virtual assistant thing. That's something I've been trying to learn more about. So
For
I'll
sure.
follow up with you to learn. Well, Drew,
Definitely.
thank you so much, man. I got a hard stop at 11, so we'll have to
Yep.
wrap it up. Would love for everyone listening. What's the best way to try Wagon Water, to follow you, follow the brand? And then obviously I'll link all of the websites and all the stuff here. So don't worry about that. But any other ways people can get involved?
Yeah, I mean, we're on Amazon or our website or Target are three places you can easily find it. Um, I'm on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with anyone on there. Anyone listening to this that wants to try a free sample, hit us up, and it's on us. And but yeah, we'll be around. We're in a lot of individual pet stores and whatnot, and you hopefully see more of us, in more places soon. So appreciate you guys.
Love it. Well, thanks, Drew. Appreciate you coming on, man. And next time we meet, we'll do it. We'll do one of these in person.
Yes, sir. Let's do it, man. I appreciate you, Shane. Thanks for
Awesome,
having
man.
me.
Thanks, Drew.